Julian Nagelsmann is a very young man. And a national coach is seen as a job where you not retire to, but when you've had your kind of travel around. And he was kicked out of Bayern, and now he's there as the savior of the nation. And the optimism around the Mannschaft, the German national team, is very, very high at the moment.
On a night that showcased both brilliance and vulnerability, Germany secured their place in the UEFA Nations League semi-final after a thrilling 3-3 draw with Italy. It was a night where Germany dazzled, then panicked, and still emerged as a team in progress. So what did we actually learn? What does the ideal starting 11 look like for Germany? And who are the key players that we want to focus on and who we think are key to Germany's World Cup run in 2026? All that will be broken down by myself and, as always, co-host Jan Fjørtoft. Before we go into it, though, welcome, Dad. And let's do a little catch-up. I feel like we haven't chatted in a while either. So what was your weekend like?
Great sport weekend, as we are, meaning Viaplay or ESPN or Servus or whatever I work with. We didn't have the game involved this weekend, so I had a sport mad weekend. A couple of days doing my own sport, doing downhill and cross country, and then Sunday I was more like stuck in the sofa watching Formula One, cross country, biathlon, and then a fantastic night of football. And Marcus, you said it was not just an advert for great football, that game, Germany against Italy. And more or less all games were fantastic. I was following it on the football show here on the TV. There were penalty shootouts. There was Spain. There was France. There was Portugal. Was Cristiano Ronaldo. It was a fantastic football night. But I guess we'll start with Germany. And there's also a great advert for the Nations League, Marcus, because it's now celebrated in Germany that they say that the mini Euros is coming home to us, and the two semifinals, there will be Germany will play in Allianz in Munich, and the other teams will play in Stuttgart, and the final will also be in Munich. So it's a great enjoyment in Germany to go through.
Absolutely, and it was one of those in which the Germany game was done, and then you went to the Spain-Netherlands game, and that was a penalty, and then that was done in the penalty shootout, France against Croatia, and there was a real celebratory tone and style to it. There was a real buy-in, and which the penalties sort of embodied. But it was Germany then who secured their place in the semi-finals. They will be played between the 4th and 8th of June. They will play Portugal, but that. Germany.
Yeah, so we tell people the semi-finals, so people understand the model. Tell them. So it's two semi-finals in Germany.
Yeah, two semi-finals. Germany against Portugal, Spain against France, and then the winner going to final, and then we will have a winner crown, basically. In terms of the logistics of Nations League World Cup qualification, I would rather leave that.
No, that's why I told you. Yeah. But Nation League, they got two missions. First of all, is to give you an extra chance to come to the championship. That is one. But this is the Group A, so this is top game. This is the highly ranked team in Europe, and they meet then in Germany, and you will have a winner. So you will have a Nation League trophy that's going to be delivered out. And the UEFA, of course, hope this will be more and more significant for nations. And I have to say now, when you have these teams coming, we're going to have a Club World Cup that is hosted by FIFA, of course, but that's a club level. But now we have the national teams meeting in Germany, which is great. But Marcus, back to the game, fantastic football game. And I think in general, if we conclude on Germany, after Julian Nagelsmann came in before the Euros, there is a new enthusiasm, there is a new energy, there is a new positivity in and around the German national team by Rudi Völler, the head of sport, so to say, Sandro Wagner, the assistant coach, of course, but mainly because of Julian Nagelsmann. And I must say, the first half of that game in Signal Iduna Park, there was two things. Wow, Germany looks good. And thank God that Italy looks so bad, because Norway, we will meet in June the loser of that game. So I thought, wow, Italy, we're going to be okay with them. After the second half, to be fair to them, coming back 3-3, they could have had a penalty. It was not given, was overturned by VAR. So this could be, there was 1, 3, 4 minutes just at the end, big excitement, because if Italy then scored, it would be going to extra time. But Italy came back. But for me, in general, over 2 games, it was Germany's deserved win.
Yeah, I think Germany that first half was brilliant. They were so aggressive, high up in the press. They were dynamic. It was full of energy and full of life. And so 3-0 up deservedly. You had Kimmich take the penalty. We'll talk about Kimmich in terms of how he continues to be this stalwart and leader, not only from a Germany perspective, but a Bayern perspective. You have the Musiala goal in terms of the corner, which is an absurd goal in of itself, where we have the ball boy moment with Noel Urbaniak, the 15-year-old, first time on ball boy duties, who assisted and got a signed ball after the game, which is a fantastic story itself. And then the 3-0 with Tim Kleindienst, who also has an incredible story. So that first half, you could argue, maybe the best half of football that Germany's played under Nagelsmann. And then you could look at the second half, and there is that panic that ensues. A few subs, Goretzka going off, a few others, in which the makeup of the team shifts. Maybe the chemistry between each player. There's some debuts going out there as well, in which that folds. And maybe that is a learning lesson for Nagelsmann. But over 2 games, you have Germany defeating Italy. That there is an historic rivalry to it. It is a one of the most successful countries in terms of trophies garnered as well. So that it is of big significance for Germany to get to the semi-final and beat someone like Italy over 2 games.
Without being a German, I would say that this maybe is the second biggest rivalry, because number one within the Netherlands, that is just a historic fact, beating them in 71, 74 finals, starting all there. Then you had some bad experience for the Germans in Euros and so on. But I think that the first half was significant to understand that Germany at their best, they will be one of the favorites at the World Cup, at their best. Then we have to respect Nagelsmann that he's doing different changes. This was a second game in few days. They're gonna play in the Champions League for their respective teams. So that was a way for him to get credit there. But I think what is interesting is the 3 goals, that they all tell a story. The story number 1 is Joshua Kimmich, who takes responsibility. This is my penalty. I am the captain. I will take it. He does. He has done 8 in his professional football career. He scored on every penalty. That is point number 2. And then point number 1. Point number 2 is over 2 games. Joshua Kimmich, I think he's had 4 assists and 1 goal. He's been so prolific in that. But the second goal, I've never seen something like it. So this is a finishing. Donnarumma is making a good save. Then he starts quarreling with his own defenders, or I don't know. Italy very unconcentrated. This is the team that invented a cynical football. So they are standing there talking. Then your friend Noel, 15 years of age, he has eye contact with Joshua Kimmich, gives the ball straight to him. Joshua Kimmich makes a quick corner. Musiala, of course, of all people, will get the ball and make it 2-0. I mean, that was significant in the terms of where Germany are at the moment. This is a team on a positive way of doing things like that. This has nothing to do with training. This is nothing to do with exercises. This is about confidence. Then the third goal was interesting as well, because Germany has been lacking. This is number 9. We talked a lot about Füllkrug. We have said they miss Klose. They haven't produced their own German strikers, and now suddenly we have Kleindienst, we have Bukat, we have a Füllkrug that maybe will come back after his injuries. And Kleindienst deservedly took his goal. He's been fantastic in the Bundesliga this season. So also a man with a great confidence, and that 3-0 up to halftime. I think you will rank that half up with the best that they've done under Julian Nagelsmann.
Absolutely, and we will go into what we thought we'd do for the format for this episode is that we go through the team and then we'd see, okay, which ones are set in terms of the positions for next year and who are not, etc. But just ending note on Nagelsmann, that obviously this team is still very much in progress, but that first half there's a lot to take from it. But put into context also not only what Nagelsmann has done from a tactical perspective and the vigor that he's given this team, but the vigor that he's given the nation of Germany. It was a country largely disillusioned by underwhelming performances under Flick, for instance. So in terms of bringing that about, it's almost a greater achievement that, and obviously that is predicated by what you deliver on the field and the tactical acumen you have. But you see the energy that he brings into it, the camaraderie of it, the real team feel. It can't be underestimated, I guess, the cultural impact that you have as a coach, as a leader.
Yeah, and in the last 20, 25 years, this is, I will say, the third time this has happened with German football. I follow them very closely, but we know that big football nations, it's a kind of, you measure your fever in a country when the national team is doing well. I mean, where you're based in England, I mean, it's all about, can they do it again? That happened in '66, and yes, Southgate took them to the final, not enough because we didn't win, and so on for Sir Gareth Southgate. And this is the same in France when something wrong with their team. Talking about Italy, talking about Spain, talking about Germany, the national team, and I must say, till you get the women's, because the women's have shown, the Lionesses in England has been showing that they can lift the spirit in football, same as Spain did in when they won the World Cup, and so on. But the national team is so much of the spirit. The first time this happened, Rudi Völler was involved in as well. There was after '96 and '98 championship, they were so down and they had a task force. And at the end of the day, they said, "Why can't you take it, Rudi?" And he built up a team, and they lost the final in 2002, South Korea, Japan. That was not the Cristiano Ronaldo, but the original Ronaldo's big World Cup. Then they had a bit like 4 years later, before they had their own World Cup in Germany, the nation was down. There was like, we're going to embarrass ourselves. I think they played Italy, if I'm not wrong, they lost 3-0 a couple of months or 1 month before the World Cup, still seen as one of the most prestigious events ever been hosted in Germany, that 2006 World Cup. And then, of course, they're winning the World Cup. And then is in Brazil, but then it's go down, down, down. So they now haven't had this great team, and a great team for Germany. I mean, you can't, if you present yourself as a former German footballer and you say you haven't won the World Cup or the Euros, they say, okay, what next? I mean, this is so significant. And now Völler is again taking charge. He's very popular. He talked Julian Nagelsmann to take this job. Remember, Julian Nagelsmann is a very young man. And a national coach is seen as a job where you not retire to, but when you've had your kind of travel around. And he was kicked out of Bayern, and now he's there as a savior of the nation. And the optimism around the Mannschaft, the German national team, is very, very high at the moment.
And I was just looking here, but obviously we did discuss this before. Nagelsmann extending his contract on the DFB's 125th anniversary as well, in which Nagelsmann has been, I think, increasingly invested into this job. I think he's been surprised by how much he's enjoyed being Germany coach, because, like you say, it is often a role that you take on later on in your career. But wow, what a match that they turned out to be. And even with a couple of players, 2-3 key players out that, and that's what I want us to do now as we go through this team. And if we go from back to front, it was a lot of talk in German press about the goalkeeping situation. The context being Marc-André ter Stegen is out, long-term injury. He is Germany's number one. Then you could argue, who is in goal and who are the three best Germany goalkeepers as of right now? There could be an argument, at least going into these two games, that the two best Germany goalkeepers aren't even in the squad. You could say Emmanuel Neuer, right, in terms of his historical significance, but still in terms of what he's performed in the Champions League as well. And then Bernd Leno, who is doing very well for for Fulham, but who said, I'm not going into the Germany squad unless I start. And they would sort of put him out of question. So then you had a Baumann, you had a Nubel, Stuttgart, and then you had Ortega at City. And it was Baumann, Nagelsmann, and Sandro Wagner went with. And by all accounts, Dad, over those 2 games, very much established himself as at least a Germany number 2.
Well, yeah, and the thing is that what speaks against him is the lack of international experience. So when you were saying Ter Stegen out, Leno never kind of established himself around the national team. He's been around. It's a tough job to have with Manuel Neuer, like praying forever. I think also Manuel Neuer sees himself that if something happened before the World Cup, he will be there somehow around in 2026. He will kind of jump in. It's come to my mind Lothar Matthäus did the same at the World Cup. He was old, but he came back and kind of played his role. And I can also put Eintracht Frankfurt's Kevin Trapp, although now under pressure at Eintracht, so he has lost a bit of his credit that he had in the bank in and around the national team as well. But Baumann looks like the deal. I think what Julian Nagelsmann said, if Ter Stegen comes back in top shape, he will be my number 1. And I understand that because Ter Stegen has been the replacement for Manuel Neuer for ages. So that is something to do with the dynamic. It's something I do with the understanding in the dressing room that now it's his chance. But Baumann, as it stands, is their number 1. Ortega not playing regularly at Manchester City, for example, so hard for him. He's maybe the best one with the feet. But I saw also yesterday that Baumann, and the way they played out from the back, they're also in the second half when they was under pressure. This is a German team likes to play football, but Baumann is for me the number 1 right now, as he is for Julian Nagelsmann.
And that takes us on to the back 4, or was it a back 4 as it was yesterday? Well, obviously, we saw during the Euros that there was a back 4. It was a Kimmich, it was a Taz, a Rudiger, and then your Raum, Mittelstädt, what have you. And then you had Schlotterbeck yesterday, who was sort of left back, but also maybe inverted left back or a left centre back in a 3. Raum started that first half against Italy in Milan. Schlotterbeck came on the second half. I thought Schlotterbeck was excellent in that first half as well. Now, whether they go with a 3 or 4, I would like to think they went with a 4. They had Mittelstädt in a more of advanced on the left. I wouldn't see him more as a left midfield, maybe left wing back, what have you. I don't think he will start. But I think there, in terms of what is most secure, what we can most predict is at least 3 of that back 4. We have Kimmich, Tah, Rudiger are solid, and then it's a matter of left back more so if we're thinking of a 4.
Well, which will give Nagelsmann an option to kind of change his way of playing. We know that some games you have to play differently. They did this the first game. They had Kimmich more as a right back and Raum as a left back. That gives you some kind of energy that you maybe don't have when you have a 3. So I think that depends on which team you are playing. And in a World Cup, where you have to get through the group stages, where it's all about getting through, because you know that one loss can disturb you. Well, except for Argentina when they lost against the Saudis. Mm-hmm. But so I think that gives him an option. And I think Julian Nagelsmann, we know him, he would like to have that variation, because it's also how you count the players that you have available in midfield. Because if you, for example, now we talk more about the midfield, we have a Goretzka Gross who played as a double 6 more or less in the first game. So that depends how you can't have more than 11 players. That's the cliche of the day. But so you have to find a way to find a balance in the team. Kimmich, he has always been talked about the Philipp Lahm, that he can play everywhere. So, but he has that variation. Having said that, it's also to see now when we do the numbers, they play 3-5-2 or whatever, 4-4, 1-1 or whatever. The modern players now so much more flexible also where they play. But I think if you take out the best German team, if they want to play the World Cup final tomorrow, I'm 100% sure that, of course, Kimmich will play, depending where, but also Tah and Rüdiger, because it's something about them. It's something about their presence. And I would also throw in Schlotterbeck because he gives them something else back there. So England being a bit worried about their center halves, I don't think Germany should be very worried about that. They have 3-4 defenders at the back there. They have a presence. They are there. It's not easy for any striker to play against these guys. Remember, Tah had a bit of dip of form, maybe compared with his fantastic last season, but he's still there. He has the trust from Nagelsmann. So there will be no worry for Julian Nagelsmann about that.
So if we go for the back four, then let's say Ter Stegen is back. He's the starting goalkeeper. The World Cup is tomorrow. Ter Stegen is the starting goalkeeper. The back four then, let's say use a back four as a basis. We do a Kimmich, Rüdiger, Tah, Schlotterbeck.
Yeah, you could put Schlotterbeck in there, and then the angles is a bit different because we saw that also when England play. There are sometimes when the right back is going, the left back doesn't have to go. You have to find that balance, and if Kimmich then go into midfield, Schlotterbeck can come in a bit, so you have 3 at the back. But when you play, most teams now play with 1 striker anyway, so that should be enough for that. So that is all just a risk. He will. The problem is that if I agree with you there, I will have lack of players in midfield, because if you play Schlotterbeck on the left side and then Kimmich on the right side, Tah and Rüdiger in the middle, then you have 5 players gone. If you take Ter Stegen gone, and then you just have 5 players left. Because if we go into midfield, we know it's all about balance. So Wirtz was missing these double games, as was Kai Havertz. I think that both will be in there. So Kai Havertz and Wirtz and Musiala will be in there, which means that we will be lacking a balanced player. That means that you just have to play with one balanced player, number 6, which will be, as it stands now, it's Goretzka. Goretzka been a fantastic role model. Tuchel didn't like him. I think Bayern saw him as a way to get some money in after all the contract extension, after all the money they spent on Harry Kane. But Goretzka kept his mouth shut. He's just been working hard, and he's one of the player of the season in German football this season. So I will have to put Goretzka at number 6, and then you have to find a way to get Wirtz, Musiala, and Havertz to do that. That being said, I think that you need, for me, it's important that you have a number 9. So,
would a Havertz be a number 9 for you in this case?
Yeah, that could be the compromise, because Kai Havertz has done that for Arsenal as well. And it's quite interesting that we always say that Arsenal need an extra striker, a goal-getter to win the league. That could be, but I also see when coaches are talking about their best players, the players they like most, they always put Kai Havertz in there. So Kai Havertz is a very, very intelligent player. I've said it before. I follow him since he was a young kid at Bayer Leverkusen. It's a fantastic player. So he can play as a number 9. I think that it's hard to say what's the best German team, because I think that depends who they're playing. So there could be games that you play Kai Havertz in there. There could also be games when a lot of the games they will have much more possession than the opposition. Then maybe you need a number 9. Then you need the aerial duels winning of a Kleindienst, for example. You need a strong Burkhardt. You need those in there. And there is none coach who is so lucky that all are available at the same time. So I think that it depends who you are playing. You also, when Nagelsmann played in Italy, the first game, he played with 2 number 6, Pascal Gross and Goretzka. So that just means that he has a variation in his best 11. A best 11 will be more a theory for people like you and me, but Goretzka will always Nagelsmann will always say that the best 11 is also a bit depending on who we are playing. Not that we are not risking, but we just have to get the best out of the team.
Yeah, and it does depend, and it also depends on, obviously Germany are very rich in attacking talent. So say we have a Goretzka there, and Kroos following his retirement, that leaves a space for him. So you look at the options. You have Angelo Stiller, who started yesterday, Stuttgart. You have Pascal Gross. You have Robert Andrich. You have Amiri from Mainz, who was put out a bit wide in Milan, which I don't think did him justice, because one of his strength is his interceptions and his ball winning ability. So he could be an outsider. But yesterday you had a Goretzka and Stiller at home in Germany playing there, and then you have in front of them, you have then Kleindienst up top, traditional number 9, what we love, a vintage sort of number 9, and then you have Musiala, and then you had Sane as well. Musiala and Sane behind Kleindienst. Has Sane done enough? I don't think he was particularly strong yesterday. I think you could see more, and we're both big fans of our Leroy Sane, but Wirtz will be in there as well. And so that determines the shift, because we saw at the Euros last summer, we saw that Havertz even dropped down and Füllkrug went up. So Havertz could play. That is his benefit as well, is his versatility.
Yeah, but I think that, and it's a bit like same with England. If Hurricanes go too deep to get the ball, then you need players who run at the back of the back four or the back three of the opposition. So that's why you need the balance. A Kai Havertz and a number 9 together, maybe not ideal, but you will find a way. Yes, the reason he wants to get Leroy Sané going is that Leroy Sané can take people on 1-against-1. He got a great timing on his run, and I will say more like you put Florian Wirtz and Musiala in there, and then you have to build a team around them. That is an advantage for Goretzka, because he is the informed number 6 at the moment. You could play Pascal Gross there as well. You can do different things. You were talking about Stiller, you have Mittelstädt, you have so many players who can be in and around the team. So it's all about, you win something with Florian Wirtz and Musiala, but you lose something, and you need to compensate that with people in and around them to get the best out of them. So it's a very theoretical kind of exercise to try to make the best 11, because the best 11, like I said, will depend on who they're playing. But we got some indications how we're thinking. When you go to Italy, you play with a double 6, and you play with Kimmich at the right back, David Raum, who will come up because he is fantastic on that left side. But at home, you went a bit more. If I see the team here, you went a bit more riskier with 3-5-2-ish, with still a.
But I'm wondering if the Raum Schlotterbeck though I don't think he's entirely convinced by Raum. Obviously, Raum is a completely different left back than Schlotterbeck. So the question is, do they play Schlotterbeck in Germany as a response to that first half against Italy? To your point, it was 2 6s. You could be affording to be a bit deeper and be a bit more stabilizing, a bit risk averse, right? And then the question is, positionally, Raum got caught out for that first goal in Milan as well. So it depends.
But it's interesting. It's interesting to see how the big nations, because you have the ocean is full of a great talents. If you see, and it's a bit like England, and I go back to England again, all the candidates they have a midfield. So the only one you would put straight down for England is Jude Bellingham, because you know that he is a balanced player and he is in form. He has my favorite word. He has a presence out there. But then what you play in and around him, there are so many, just Saka, Gordon, Palmer. I mean, there are so many, but as a national coach, you have to, because you have these resources available, you have to find the best balance. And the best balance is the balanced players. So if you have Musiala and Wirtz, you have to have someone to balance them up. And I think that I've always been a big fan of Goretzka, because Goretzka, he scored. He scored now in Italy. He scored his odd goals as well. He's always there in front of goal. He is a number 6, but he's always coming with his runs.
Can be a number 8,
a number 8, and he got a fantastic engine. So as it stands now, for me, Goretzka is 100% in the first 11 of Julian Nagelsmann. And then, of course, what will happen, because he's been on a garden leave, so to say, since the start of the season. He's still there. He will win the Bundesliga. He can win the Nation League, being a central player for Germany. he can win the Champions League for Bayern, being one of the most important players. I saw now Karl-Heinz Rummenigge this week, and he said, "Well, we didn't never wanted to go. That was Tuchel.
Yeah,
that was
of
Tuchel."
course, yeah.
So
it's funny how many are retracting back to it now, and now suddenly football is a short memory business, huh? And the same for Goretzka.
Absolutely.
And we all discussed this as well, because do Bayern take advantage of the fact that Goretzka's value is high? He is one of the biggest earners at Bayern. Is it still the time to sell or not, as of right now? And it's crazy how quickly things change. But we look at this team now and say, who's in the central midfield? Well, one thing for certain is you'd play Goretzka.
And Goretzka will be right now. Marcus talking about if he's going, and say that English football is the most not surprising destination of him, the most likely place for him to go. He will do Liverpool better. He will do Manchester City better. He will do Arsenal better. I mean, that is a fact right now. So it's going to be an interesting summer. They will be busy, the boys, because they are playing 2 national games in the beginning of June. Then they go into Club World Cup, and then they just have to be ready for a new season. So a lot of games to be played, Marcus.
But an interesting note on that as well is, because there's so many games, clubs will be forced to deal with their transfer dealings maybe a bit earlier as well. There is limited scope as to when you can make these moves. Just an ending note that towards the end of this, let's just talk about Tim Kleindienst, because for me, he represents a good old number 9. And I know you'll appreciate that you were sort of in that mold as well, in terms of being that focal point, in terms of winning your aerial duels, in terms of chasing down, in terms of getting goals. He had a great header in Germany as well, scored obviously with a header as well in Milan as well. And what a journey is for Tim Kleindienst. He has 15 goals in the Bundesliga, but it hasn't been easy. And by now, he's Germany's starting number 9.
Yeah, and I think that is down to because he's kind of following the path of Füllkrug, doesn't he?
And
I mean, he's been yeah, of course. He's been injured, prone, unfortunately, by West Ham. But Kleindienst, I think it is all a matter of who kind of types the teams are setting on. Because if you put the number 9 in there, you have to get crosses in. You have to do people in and around you that you get the space you needed. The exception is always Erling Haaland. They don't play on counter-attacks, and they may never make crosses, and he still will get over 30 goals. So there is always exceptions, but Kleindienst, he is a matter of, you can see he's confident. You can see it in every Bundesliga round. You can just see that is the greatest thing for a striker. Some years ago now I played, but I remember I saw a quote from Sir Alex Ferguson said, and I've used that before, and he said, when a striker is in a scoring mode, he thinks he will score in any game. You will just go out there, you will get a goal. And if you don't score, you think you will never, ever score again. That is the nightmare of being a number 9. But Kleindienst is in the best kind of sector of confidence. You can just look at him, that he wants to play because he knows that he will score a goal. So let's see. It's 16 months or something before the World Cup. Kleindienst will also see. He's playing for Gladbach. Will they stick to him? Bukat is playing in Mainz. He's been linked to many clubs. He's been linked to the main rival Eintracht Frankfurt. They need a striker. So let's see what's happening in the summer. But I think that one of the reasons that Germany will eventually do good at the World Cup is that they have a proper number 9, and we'll see. And as it stands now, it's Tim Kleindienst.
It is Tim Kleindienst, and for the, I guess, those listening or not listening, they're not as familiar with the Bundesliga as well. You see these type of names pop up, like a Burkhardt, like Kleindienst. And that's what I like about this new look Germany team as well. They're being picked on form. Who deserves it the most? Burkhardt, Kleindienst, Amiri, Goretzka. They deserve it. They deserve
Stiller.
To be
There are so many players people haven't heard about. You nearly have to Google them to see where they're playing. And there's a new generation of players coming from Stuttgart. There are so many great players now. There's a good development in Germany. Having said that, they're not all around 20. There are end of 20, some of them. So this just means that what you're looking for. But Marcus, let's end with the man of the match. I mean, that was not Joshua Kimmich. that was the ball boy. Can you imagine being a ball boy? Markus, you've been a ball boy when you were a little kid. I think you were so small that we wouldn't let you to get near the pitch. But can you imagine Noel, 15, making an assist for a German goal at Signal Iduna Park? He get texted by his parents, "We just saw you on TV." Of course, the host broadcaster picked this up after the game. He's coming over to the tunnel. Joshua Kimmich comes out with a ball and a signed ball for Noel. What a day. What a dream story. I mean, it's a dream come true for any boy or girl going to a football game, I guess.
Yeah, it's a beautiful story indeed. Registered an assist, we'll give him that. But yeah, that's our conclusion on the Germany team. We'll be soon back. We will welcome Italy, in our World Cup qualification group in Norway.
Yeah.
Norway play tomorrow, but that is Germany. And let us know what you think. Who should be the starting 11 for Germany? Should Tim Kleindienst be up top? Who should be the holding midfielders? Let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe, of course. But for now, Dad, auf Wiedersehen.
Yes, and we are playing Israel tomorrow. We beat Moldova 5-0 Norway, and then we're going to knock out Italy. If you agree, tell us. If you disagree, tell us also why we will not come to another World Cup, but this time we will be around Norway, that is. Auf Wiedersehen.